In tonight's stories, decay takes two forms, one that breeds in the dark and one that tastes like candy. A detective's final case uncovers a corpse filled with hatching horrors that melt, regrow, and whisper through the vents. And on Halloween night, a boy steals candy from the witch's porch and learns what eternal hunger really means. Two tales of corruption, contagion, and the sweetness of death. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. Story 1, Case File 47B22, ROTTA from the inside. Case File 47B22, Rotting from the inside. Source, audio recordings, Detective Iqbal Syed, Section 1. Initial dispatch interview location, East Precinct, interview room B, date, redacted, 0 hours and 2 seconds. Recording begins, Detective Iqbal Syed, badge number 3641. Location, 22 divided by 4B. Gulshan Housing Complex. Time is 8:47 hours. Victim identified as Rahim Hassan, male, 48. Apparent suicide, self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, seen otherwise undisturbed. Dispatch, confirm who found the body. Dispatch, officer, female officer, LS. That was a call from a Mr. Keller, the next-door neighbor. Came in at 6:52, said he smelled something sweet and rotten. Officers were on scene by 7:02. Dispatch officer, male officer M. Alvarez. No signs of forced entry. Windows were latched, door locked from inside. Seed, copy that. Anything unusual? Brief silence, faint shuffling heard. Officers, anything else at the scene worth noting? Jensen, it's just, the body, sir. Looked wrong. Like it had been there for weeks. The skin was gray, sloughing off in places. But it didn't smell like rot. Not the usual smell, I mean. More like burnt sugar. It was pretty disgusting. Gonna take more than a wash to get off my clothes. You said the scene was otherwise undisturbed? Alvarez, yes sir. Everything was in order. Curtains drawn, fan still on. Gun on the floor by his right hand. Only long pause. Yed. Only what? Jensen. His mouth. What about it? Static crackle, faint mic adjustment. Alvarez. It was open, sir. Wide open. Looked like he was gasping. There was something. Both. What? SYED. Something what? Chair creaks. Distant whisper of paper being moved. Jensen. You'll see it in the footage. It's better if you see it. All right. Pull it up. Let's review the body cam feed. Brief clicking tape. Distortion. Rising static. 0 hours. 7 minutes. And 41 seconds. End of section. Section 2. Body cam footage. Review Officer L. Jensen. Cam. 2 amperes. Location. 22 divided by 4. B. Gulshan Housing Complex. Date. Redacted. Video playback. Log begin. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Timestamp. Overlay. Visible. Interior. Hallway of residential flat. Camera light flickers briefly, illuminating narrow corridor with peeling paint and faint moisture damage on walls. Jensen. Dispatch. This is Unit 14 on site. Odor strong, possibly decomp. Proceeding to main room. Alvarez on video. Off screen. Copy. Door locks intact. We're forcing entry. Get back, Lisa. Loud metallic click, door splinters open. 0 hours and 47 seconds. Camera enters living room. Ceiling fan spinning slowly. Table with untouched food trays. The body of Rahim Hassan visible in armchair. Head tilted back. Gun on carpet beside right hand. Quietly, Jesus. Alvarez. Don't get too close yet. Scene's clean otherwise. Calling for forensics. Footage cuts out and restarts to forensic crew on scene. Faint noise of chatter. Jensen, look at his skin. That's not right. It's waxy, like someone dipped him in glue. Been a week, maybe more, but the air conditioner's off. He should be bloated. Audio distortion. Faint buzzing heard in background. Jensen, you hear that? Alvarez. Yeah, thought it was the fan. Camera pans toward body. 0 hours, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds. Close-up of victim's face. Mouth wide open, unnaturally stretched. No visible rigor in jaw. Eyes are half open, glossy. Skin around lips discolored. Faint residue visible. Why's his mouth like that? Alvarez. Maybe the blast forced it open. No, look, no visible trauma there. And the smell, God, it's not rot. It's gags, like syrup and ammonia. Camera trembles slightly. Faint dripping sound. Alvarez, quietly. Check if there's any pulse, just to confirm. Jensen. He's stone cold, Mike. Been dead for a while. Hand seen, briefly touching victim's wrist. Glove sticks to skin with soft peeling sound. Jensen. What the hell? His skin's tacky, like resin. Alvarez. Let them bag him. It's the lab's job from here. Camera pans down as forensic crew begins wrapping the body in plastic sheeting. Jensen. You think this was really a suicide? Alvarez. Guns clean, prints match. Looks open and shut to me. Rustle of plastic faint, crackle in audio. 0 hours, 4 minutes, and 56 seconds. As the bag seals, a faint ripple passes across the victim's chest under the sheet. Neither officer nor forensic crew seems to notice. 1 second of low-frequency interference. 0 hours, 5 minutes, and 1 second. End of footage. Section 3. Forensic Autopsy Recording Doctor. Alan Karim, City Morgue Date. Redacted, 0 hours. Recording begins, Karim. Autopsy report, case 47B22. Subject, Rahim Hassan, male, 48. Received from Gulshan Housing Complex. Cause of death appears to be self-inflicted gunshot wound, proceeding with external examination. Soft sound of latex gloves snapping on. KAM. Rigor mortis, partial, expected. Notable discoloration, grayish pallor. Texture, unusually tacky. No bloating observed. Odor, inconsistent with standard decay. Faintly saccharine, ammonia-like. Metal tools clink against tray. Karim, proceeding with Y incision. With slicing sound, suction noise. That's odd. The cavity's Jesus. There are no organs. Thoracic and abdominal cavities completely hollow. Structure appears replaced with clusters of ovoid sacs. Shuffling. Another voice enters female assistant, Natalie Pallida. Pallida. They look like eggs. Are those insect eggs? Possibly. I'll collect samples for entomology. Size ranges from 2 to 5 millimeters. Opaque. The quantity, good God, there must be thousands. Short. Silence. Pallida. Doctor. They're moving. That can't be. Their sharp rattle. Instruments fall. Karim. They're alive. Every one of them just hatched. Panic rises. Multiple voices shouting. Background hum from equipment. Pallida. They're everywhere. On the walls. God. On my arms. Karim. Containment protocol. Ethanol. Now. Hissing sound. Liquid splashing screams. Pallida. It's not working. They're melting. And oh God, they're growing back. Audio peaks. Distortion. Muffled coughing. Don't breathe. They're in the vents. Turn off the incoherent shouting. The pressure hood's failing. Metal crash. Alarm. Blaring. Pallida. I can't breathe. Choking sounds. They're inside. Extended distortion. Microphone hits. Floor. Faint crackling. Like static mixed with buzzing. Distant. They replicate from heat. Don't loud shriek. Audio collapses into static. 0007. 19. Recording ends. Abruptly. Post note. Filed by Forensic Oversight. Autopsy lab. 3 sealed. Following containment breach. 3 fatalities confirmed, including technician Natalie Polita. No biological samples recovered intact. Remaining staff placed under observation pending quarantine protocol. Section 4. Neighborhood interviews. Conducted by Detective Iqbal Syed. Location, 22 divided by 4. B. Gulshan Housing Complex Courtyard. Date, redacted, 000001. Recording begins. SYED, Detective Iqbal Syed. Badge number 3641. Continuing investigation into the death of Rahim Hassan. Following up with local residents. Regarding timeline and potential witnesses. Please state your name for the record. Miss Herrera. Gabrielle Herrera. I live directly opposite. Did you notice anything unusual in the week prior to Mr. Hassan's death? Not really. He kept to himself, didn't talk much. Honestly, most of us avoided him. Seemed lonely. Practically rotted in his apartment. Any visitors? Herrera. None that I saw. He used to shout at delivery boys. Complained about the management, liked things quiet. When was the last time you saw him alive? Herrera. Maybe a week before? He looked thinner, paler. I thought he was sick, but he seemed, well, he looked happy. Less happy, more, just, very pleased. Satisfied, that's the word. I suppose that's when he must have decided to end it. Pause, poor man. Did you notice any noise or smell before the neighbor reported it? Pere. I keep my windows closed, detective. I didn't want trouble. Papers, shuffle, muffled city sounds in background. All right. Thank you for your time. Brief click next interview. SYED. Please state your name. Mr. Daniel Keller. I live in 4C, right next to him. Mrs. Keller. Miriam Keller. Also living in 4C. I'm his wife. You called it in, Mr. Keller? I did, yes. There was this unbearable smell, and it just kept getting worse. Did you know Mr. Hassan personally? Barely. Grumpy old bastard. Divorced, I think? No family. Used to tell the kids to stop playing in the hallways. Never said hello to anyone. Mrs. Interjecting. Daniel, don't call him a bastard. The poor man is dead. Slightly louder. And he wasn't divorced. Meaningful pause. He was a widower. Lost his wife before he moved here anyhow. I was curious, so I looked up obituaries. Some sort of parasite? Oh, I had no idea. He was difficult, all right? I figure he was lonely. Lonely and miserable and rotting inside his place all day. Did you see or hear anything the day before he died? Yeah, actually. Saw him out on his balcony around sunset. Looked, well, really happy, actually. Kept pacing, talking to himself. Talking to himself? What did he say? Couldn't tell. Something about never alone again, and they'll always be with me, I think. Short silence. Anything else? Geller. This'll sound crazy, but he was leaning on the railing, and for a second I thought I saw his skin move. Like something underneath it was shifting. Whispering. Daniel, stop exaggerating. You're certain? Keller. I don't know what I saw. Might have been the light. But he looked, like I said, happy. It was weird. Eyes glossed over, pure bliss sort of thing. Short, static burst. Faint background ringtone. Yed. One moment. Phone picked up. Muffled conversation. Yed. This is Syed. What? When? Pause. Tone shifts. Say that again? Eggs? What kind of eggs? Long silence chair. Scrapes background chatter. Rises, shed to himself. What the hell's happening in that lab? Recording distorts faint. Rising static. 0 hours. 9 minutes. and 44 seconds. Recording ends. Section 5. Final interview. Doctor. Alan Kareem. Location: forensic interview room, city morgue. Quarantine lifted for interview. Date: redacted, 0 hours and 1 seconds. Recording begins. Note: Doctor. Alan Kareem was brought out of quarantine for this interview. All biohazard protocols active. Recording monitored by forensic oversight. Doctor. Kareem, can you summarize your experience with case 47B22? To himself. Faintly audible. God, it smells awful in here. Kareem. Faintly, does it? You don't smell it? It's so... whatever. Please, doctor, if you will. S.Y. Where to begin, detective? We opened the body. Rahim Hassan. All his organs were gone. Hollow cavities filled with eggs. Thousands of them. Yed, go on. The eggs weren't pos. Insect. Not by any taxonomy I know. No segmentation, no organic membrane. Self-replicating somehow. Parasitic, maybe. Or reproductive in another way. So, and then? Karim! I touched them to collect samples. Every single one hatched. Instantly. They swarmed the lab, crawling over tables, instruments, walls. Nat deceased assistant, Natalie Polida, tried ethanol and fire. It didn't work. They just melted and regrew, multiplied. I couldn't stop it. Pause, wet, squirming sound, faint in background. And the other staff? Nat, suffocated under the swarm. We tried to seal vents, contain them, but I don't know what happened after that. They just kept spreading. Brief silence. Doctor, are you feeling all right? You look wet, coughing noise. Harem. Haven't slept since. Keep feeling movement, like something behind my ribs, probably nerves. Want me to call medical? Wet gagging. Muffled retch camera divided by floor mic noise. Seed. Doctor. Doctor. Oh, what the fuck is that disgusting smell? Retching noise, small, wet, thud. Oh, God. Sound of something squirming, like liquid pouring over tile. K-rim. Barely audible inside. There. Gagging, muffled scream. Microphone falls for 7 full seconds. Faint crunching is heard. Wet and rhythmic unidentified. They'll always be with me. Static floods. Channel. 0 hours, 4 minutes, and 36 seconds. Recording ends abruptly. Post note. Asterisk. Final vocalization unconfirmed origin. Audio analysis. Inconclusive possible overlap between subject, Dr. Kareem, and Det. Syed. Asterisk interview terminated. Dr. Kareem was later unlocatable in quarantine. Asterisk. Case 47. B22. Marked inconclusive due to containment failure and lack of recoverable samples. Asterisk. Detective Iqbal Syed reported missing approximately 12 hours after final recording. Asterisk. All further investigations suspended. Building sealed. Case file closed status. Unresolved story 2. Sweet Tooth. Come on, Andy. This place gives me the creeps. Andy and Mikey had been up and down the road all evening, and their sacks were practically bulging with Halloween candy. The two of them had done quite well, probably about 8 or 9 pounds between them, but that's the thing about kids on Halloween. They never seemed to be able to do well enough. They wanted more, and they all knew that in a neighborhood like Cerulean Pines, there would always be more. The families here were as nuclear as the atom bomb. They all had 2.5 kids, a pension, a dog, and apple pie on Sundays after church. They always put on for the kids, and there was always another house. The house they stood outside of now, however, was probably not the place to try their luck. Most of the houses on the block were nice enough places. Little tiki-taki homes with picket fences and well-kept lawns. It was the perfect sort of neighborhood to raise a family and live comfortably, which meant that the widow Douglas's house stood out like a sore thumb. The fence was in need of a painting, the shutters were in a sorry state, and the whole place just had an aura about it that screamed, "Don't come here." The porch light was on, however, and the boys knew that there would be candy here if candy was what they had a mind for. Scaredy cat, what's the matter, Mikey? You afraid of the witch woman? All the kids in the neighborhood were afraid of the widow Douglas, even Andy Marcus. Despite his bluster, he knew that this house was trouble. Her husband had died a long time ago, probably before either of them had been born, so she had always been the widow Douglas to them. To the children of the town, however, she would always be the witch woman. No one could say how the rumor had started, but like most rumors, it had taken off like wildfire. The witch woman was responsible for all the woes of the town and was the constant scapegoat of those in need of one. When a well went dry or a crop failed, when rain didn't come or a store that you liked went under, even when you stubbed your toe or your dog got hit by a car, it was always the witch woman's fault. Some of it was just town gossip, but some of it might have been true. It really depended on who you asked and who you believed. Andy approached the house slowly, almost laughing when he saw the sign that had become so familiar tonight. They had been up and down the block since 7 o'clock, hitting all the houses with lit front porches, and all of them had borne an unguarded candy bowl and a sign that said "Take one." That was fine, of course, for kids who played by the rules, but Andy was not a child to be told what to do by a paper sign. They had mercilessly looted the bowls, dumping over half into their sacks before they disappeared down the road in search of another house with candy they could burglarize. Mikey was clearly uncomfortable with what they were doing, but Andy knew he wasn't going to speak out against him. Their dynamic had been established long ago, and if Andy said they were going to do it, then that was just how it was. The exception to that seemed to be the witch woman, but Andy was more than capable of pulling off this job by himself. Andy walked up the pathway that led to the house, his head turning from side to side as he checked to make sure he wasn't noticed. He had gotten pretty good at this over the years. He would approach the house, and if he saw an adult on the porch, he would usually smile and accept his candy before heading somewhere else. If the adult didn't look like they were paying attention, then sometimes he would risk it anyway, but Mikey was usually in the habit of playing it safe. The trees in the yard looked skeletal as he made his way up the overgrown path. He could hear the leaves rattling as they clung to the bare limbs for dear life. He nearly lost his nerve when he put his foot down on the top step. It loosed an eerie creak that he was sure you could hear deep into the night, and the second step wasn't a lot better. No one came out to yell at him as he got closer to the candy bowl on the front porch. The bowl was just sitting there on a little table, no one in sight to threaten him or scold him, and he licked his lips as he reached out and pushed the sign over that proclaimed 1 piece per person. He picked up the bowl and dumped the whole thing into his bag, putting it down before tearing off for the sidewalk, like the old witch woman might already be after him. By the time he got back to the sidewalk, he was out of breath, but he was also laughing as Mickey asked if he was okay. Better than okay. I went and stole her candy, and she was none the wiser. As if in answer, Andy heard a muffled cackle come from the house, and the two of them took off down the road. Come on, Andy, let's go home. We can eat a bunch of candy and be done for the night. My sack's getting awfully heavy, and I think I'm ready to pack it in. Andy started to answer, but instead, he reached into his sack and grabbed a piece of candy. He had suddenly been struck with an overwhelming urge to eat some of what he had stolen tonight. He had eaten a little of the candy they had taken that night, but this felt a little different. It was more than just a desire for sweets. It was something deep down that felt more like a need than anything. Andy opened the sack and reached inside again as they walked, selecting a piece and popping it into his mouth. It tasted amazing, but Andy found that he immediately wanted more. He reached in and put another one into his mouth, and he closed his eyes as the savory taste flooded his mouth. Had he ever enjoyed candy this much? He didn't know, but he would be willing to bet not. This led him to want another piece, and as he grabbed the third, he felt Mikey touch his arm. Andy? Andy, let's go home. You got what you were after, and we got more candy than we can eat in a year. Let's just get out of here. Andy tried to articulate through the mouthful of candy that he did not want to go home, but it was hard when you couldn't form coherent words around all the sweets you had. He just kept eating the candy, really packing it away, and as he sat on the sidewalk and ate, he could see other kids staring at him. Andy would have normally been self-conscious about this, but at the moment, he didn't care. His need to eat and his need to eat candy seemed to be the only thing on his mind. Mikey was looking on in horror as he shoveled it in, really filling his mouth with their ill-gotten candy from the night's work. Andy started just putting them in with the wrapper still on, not really caring if the paper got stuck in his throat or not. The sack was beginning to empty, but Andy's hunger was far from done. "Andy?" Mikey stuttered. "Come on, Andy. You're scaring me. Let's just go home. This isn't funny. But Andy wasn't listening. The only thing that Andy was interested in was stuffing his face with as much candy as he could manage. His stomach began to fill, but still, Andy ate the candy. When he turned and threw up a stomach full of half-digested wrappers and sweets on the sidewalk, the adults began to take notice. When Andy went right back to stuffing the wrapped candy into his mouth, both hands working furiously, some of them tried to stop him. As they tried to pull the boy away from the bag of candy, he pushed them off and grabbed candy from others who were nearby. He was like a wild animal, eating and eating at the candy that sat on the concrete before him, and as people started dialing 911, he began to groan as his insides bulged with the amount of sweets going into him. When the men in the ambulance tried to pull him away from the sweets, he bit them and tried to escape. They restrained him, however, and took him to the hospital before he did himself real harm. The police came to investigate, fearing the old catechism about drugs or poison being in the treats. They talked to Mikey, but they got very little of use out of him. The kid was frantic, saying again and again how it had been the fault of the witch. He didn't start acting like this until he took her candy. He was fine as ever, but then he took her candy, and that was when he started acting weird. "The witch?" one officer said, sounding nervous. "The witches, the one over on South Street. Everyone knows about her." The cops looked at each other, not really sure how to tell the boy that there was no way they were going to the widow Douglas's house. They had grown up in the town too, and they remembered well not to cross the hunched old crone. They asked a few more questions, but when they flipped their notebooks closed, it was pretty clear what they intended to do. "We'll look into it, kid. Thanks for your cooperation." Mikey just stood there as they drove away, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. The police never bothered the widow Douglas. They knew better than to go bother a witch on what was likely her worst night of the year. The legend, however, changed slightly. The kids say that if you find candy on Halloween at the old Douglas place, you should avoid it like the plague. Mikey told everyone that the witch had poisoned Andy, and that was why he was gone and couldn't return to school. He told them how the police hadn't even gone to her house, but everyone knew that the witch was still there, just waiting for her next trick. It would have been impossible for Andy to have told the story himself. He spent the rest of his life in a medical facility as he raved and begged for candy. He had to be restrained, his food coming from a tube lest he try to eat himself to death. He couldn't have sweets ever again, since they would send him into a frenzy that would usually result in him harming himself or others. It seemed that the curse was a long-lasting one, and poor Andy hungered for sweets forevermore. Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.